Hello everyone, I am your host, Mr. Renaissance, and in today's video I will break down and discuss criticism. As someone who enjoys watching reviews in their spare time, it's interesting to think about why and how people engage with opinions about various topics. Writing reviews for video games, movies, and other forms of entertainment will be a big part of this channel. So examining the importance of criticism, how we criticize, and what ways to improve analysis are all aspects that will help guide my work. The definition of criticism is the act of judging works while noting the problems of a person or thing. Criticism has a negative connotation, but can also include highlighting the positive aspects as well. If something is receiving criticism, there's more focus on what went wrong and how to avoid these mishaps in the future. The standards of what we critique depend on the subject matter. The criticism a movie receives is based on different things compared to the actions of a person. How a movie is composed, executed, and written are common aspects that are evaluated. The criticism people receive for their actions are often based on societal, legal, and moral expectations. It's an understatement to say criticism is important. It's a reliable source of exchanging information while allowing people to dictate what is acceptable and unsatisfactory. Having another person review your work will allow for different perspectives. They may see issues where you don't and make suggestions on how to improve or what to avoid. This is why many projects have test audiences to provide feedback before an official release. Today, everyone is more critical of the things they consume. It makes sense for people to be defensive, as companies have become bold in the way they implement exploitative business practices such as false advertisements. Some ads deceive consumers into believing their product is high quality and authentic just to exploit them for profit. For cases like this, criticism is not focusing on improvement, rather, preventing further attempts of malicious practices. The internet and social media platforms made it easier for anyone to share their opinions. While there are many gripes that I have with social media, I like the fact that consumers can directly voice their opinions. This shift towards accessibility has led to an increase in online review websites, beta tests for games, and video essays. These have all grown in popularity and cultural relevance in the past decade by becoming important avenues for people to determine whether they should spend their money on a product or service. They provide an in-depth analysis on content while measuring the cost-to-value ratio. Some movies will even advertise how their film received amazing critical reception. How many times have you heard, "Critics are calling it the movie of the summer," or "This is the #1 movie in America"? This shows that reviews have an effect on what people buy. One final thing that needs to be understood is that criticism scales with skill level. The criticism in amateur experiences won't be as harsh compared to someone who calls himself a professional or master. The reason for this is expectation. When you are charging for a service or product and it does not meet the industry standard that is set, the criticism is going to be fierce. Because people have invested more time and money, they are less likely to tolerate poor business practices. One example was in 2017 when Star Wars Battlefront 2 was review bombed for its aggressive microtransactions and loot boxes. A well-established IP backed by a company with the ability to make a high-quality game, which was already fully priced $60. Yet, they were adding pay-to-win mechanics. After so much bad publicity, 1 year later, the developers decided to overhaul it. They removed many features that received backlash, while adding additional content such as maps, game modes, and characters. Ever since the overhaul in 2018, the game has improved drastically. I ended up getting it with an online bundle for like $8. Battlefront 2 has now become one of my favorite games to play in my free time. Even when someone gives criticism, there can be flaws in their approach. Presentation and composition are important aspects that, if done poorly, can diminish a stance. Now I'll go over a few aspects that can make a criticism less effective and should be avoided. Number 1. Emphasis on subjective taste over objective quality. People have preferences for the things they like and dislike. This shouldn't stop individuals from engaging with other forms of media and entertainment. For example, you have anime fans who are passionate about a series, but sometimes can ignore criticism and attack anyone who gives it. Subjective taste does affect tolerance level. Some people will either overlook glaring negative aspects if they enjoy it, or will quickly disengage at the slightest inconvenience over something they have negative feeling towards. When giving criticism, you should try to focus on what you are critiquing objectively and try not to let subjective opinions cloud your judgment, as being too subjective will prevent you from assessing fairly. Number 2, lack of understanding and constant generalizations. If you're going to provide criticism, it's important to understand the creator's intent and execution. There could be a problem with one or both aspects. When someone fails to research, this can lead to them taking situations out of context and creating hate or like mobs based on false pretenses. The lack of proper research will make the criticism look lazy, uneducated, and may contain points that will be easy to refute. Avoid surface level engagements and emphasize when something is an allegation or rumor. Trust me, this can save you from a lawsuit. And lastly, personal attacks or marks that are irrelevant to what is being critiqued. This seems to be prevalent when criticism is levied against individuals. The point of criticism is to call out negative behavior or improper expression. I think it's okay to criticize someone's character and actions, but making remarks against physical characteristics such as race, looks, gender, or other aspects that are unrelated to their actions can diminish the criticism. This may lead others to question your ideas. Keep the criticisms objective and avoid personal attacks if they are irrelevant. Now that I have explained aspects that hinder criticism, let's go over 2 things that can help make it more effective. Number 1, researching the topic and information. Before working on a critique, finding information that can help support claims is a great first step that should be taken. Including data, providing context, and finding evidence are things that can elevate a criticism. For example, on DVDs, you can find commentaries from people who worked on movies, provide context to scenes, explain reasons for including features, and give additional facts. Researching can also help formulate and structure ideas. Sometimes figuring out how to approach a topic can be difficult, but as information is gathered, it becomes easier to organize your thoughts and opinions. One of the quotes that I live by is, "Preparation prevents poor performance." Number 2, providing examples and explanations. When constructing a criticism, it's not enough to simply provide a claim. You need to explain why something works or what should be avoided in the future. Depending on the amount of reasoning you give, it can come off as shallow or complex. Some messages are straightforward, while others may need further elaboration. An example of a lackluster criticism would be, Call of Duty Black Ops 4 provides a mediocre gaming experience. People may agree with this sentiment, but it lacks details. Yes, the game may be mediocre, but why is it mediocre? What holds the game back? When providing criticism, you often need to make a claim, then explain. Now here's an example of a well-constructed criticism. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 is a mediocre game because it lacks an identity, as there is no story mode to ground the setting and characters. The weapon system, specialist, and battle pass have improved compared to previous games in the franchise. While there have been quality of life improvements, in other aspects the game suffers because it attempts to replicate the Battle Royale experience and follow popular trends rather than being unique. When it comes to providing criticism, there is different criteria that people assess works by. Critics and reviewers check for objective quality, composition, and polish. Audiences tend to value entertainment and presentation. Sometimes these ideas coincide, and other times they clash. Works can be well constructed but unengaging. I looked at movies that received critical acclaim or were given several awards, but did not perform well at the box office. The Last Duel, which was released in 2021, is a notable example of a movie that received above average reviews but failed to draw in audiences to the theaters. It had a cast of famous actors including Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, and Adam Driver, but it wasn't enough. With a budget of $100 million, they only managed to bring home $30 million at the box office. On the opposite end of the spectrum, works can be flawed but cherished. Many popular series including Naruto, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Call of Duty have a myriad of issues. Problems range from inconsistencies, following similar formulas for years, and creative burnout. Despite the criticism, they have passionate fan bases that maintain communities with events, fan art, and videos. It's difficult when you enjoy something and people consistently attack it, even though it may never be critically acclaimed. Not everything needs to be a jaw-dropping spectacle with insane visuals and a well-crafted story. For some, these issues are not enough to stagger their enjoyment as they just want to have a good time. If someone criticizes or doesn't like something, that's okay. There's a reason genres and other categories exist. Certain types of movies may never be appreciated, regardless of whether they are composed well or not. What is unacceptable is mindlessly attacking someone for bringing legitimate criticism to a work of art or person. You're not helping your fan base as they only see the crazy side that gets defensive and refuses to acknowledge valid complaints. You're also not helping creators who may gain an inflated ego and continue to make mistakes because they have individuals that consume everything they release regardless of quality. Criticism should be respected and not dismissed so eagerly. It is necessary to reflect on the things we create, the products we consume, and the people we let in our lives.